So, I just want to start this off with when I was in the hospital, I had the most amazing nurse. She was so understanding and she believed me and she was just the nicest. She supported me so much, and I could not be more thankful because of past experiences I've had. And I hope she sees this video because she was just so amazing and so understanding, and you could tell that she connected on like such a personal level, and I'm so thankful for that nurse. I'm not gonna say her name, but thank you so much. Hi, it's me. This video isn't really gonna be educational at all or really have any meaning. It's just basically gonna be what I'm going through right now in terms of how I was seizure free for a year and a half, and now my life is literally crumbling beneath my feet. Um, Epileptalk. I'm wearing a shirt. Sorry if the lights are kind of screwy. I should probably leave a warning for that somewhere. I'm wearing a shirt that says I wear purple for epilepsy. Um, so to get started, about, I don't know today's date, I'd say a month ago, I started having really bad issues with behavior. Um, I was really stressed out because of my job, and my car had like just broken down, and I was like super stressed. I had a surgery coming up, and I sort of started losing myself in terms of like I was acting really pissy and overreacting to things, and I couldn't control it and I couldn't stop it. And I was sort of blanking for those moments too, and it was happening with my best friend a lot. Him and I were getting into arguments over things, and things were stressing me out more than they should, and it really started doing a toll. And we all just kind of thought that I was being, moody or something. We didn't really know what was going on because, like I said, I had been a year and a half seizure free. So, sorry if you can hear my mom talking in the background or doing whatever she is doing. But, it was really strange, and my mom pointed something out saying how like that was how I acted when I first started having seizures, and I started acting more and more aggressive, and we didn't really know why. And if you skip ahead to like a week later, I had just got my surgery done, and something really stressful had happened, and I had had a tonic-clonic seizure after a year and a half of not having any. So, my mom had walked in on it and witnessed it, and it was just very random and out of the blue, but I think it was just the surgery had stressed me out. I was previously stressed out, and then I had that big stressor come up, and it was all my brain took, and it like finally, the epilepsy finally broke through my meds, and I had a tonic-clonic, like I said, and that was the start of this horrible journey that I've been on this past month. The next day came around and I started having these episodes of not quite being fully conscious and acting out in random acts of hysteria and crying and fear and anxiety and just getting into it. We figured out that when I was having those before and acting immature and hysterical before, I was having simple partial seizures where you're conscious but a part of your brain is doing its own thing and it makes you do stuff and you can't stop it. You can't tell your brain, stop having a seizure. So I was really putting that on other people, and it was doing damage to relationships and friendships. I started acting worse towards my mom and my best friend, and realizing now that they were seizures. I wish I had known that so I could have warned people and stuff like that, but I didn't even know I was having them. I didn't even know it was a thing. And they were turning into partial complex seizures where I went unconscious, or sometimes I stayed partially conscious and I just broke down. I just start shaking or doing whatever, and I completely shut down. My body is still, up and moving or doing its own thing, but my brain is just completely somewhere else. And that started happening after that tonic-clonic that I had had, and I was having like 30 of these a day. I'm just smiling to like not cry because that's just hideous. And so I was having like 30 of these a day. It started with the just hysterical, emotional focal onset. And it started getting worse. And I started having atonic seizures where you just drop to the floor. It's like you pass out. And I wasn't eating because I wasn't registering that I was hungry. So after about 3 days, we had to bring me to a hospital, and I was having tons of seizures there. And when I first started having seizures, I was told I was faking it because the doctors, they're not neurologists, and they just saw, me kind of awake, being weird. So back when I was 13, I was told that I was faking my seizures, and it took a year and a half to be diagnosed and put on meds, and it started the exact same way it's going now. And I slowly lost who I was as a person when I started having my seizures when I was 13, and we're getting to that point. But I'll get into that. When you hear my voice get really hoarse like this, it's because my heart rate is like jumping really suddenly. It's my VNS catching seizures before they happen. It's been doing that somewhat decently. But it still goes off every 2 minutes, but it's not that bad. My heart rate was just 120. So I'm in the hospital, and they have me on an IV giving me calories and fluids because I can't eat or drink, and my body won't let me. And I got released again, being told I was faking it, that these weren't real seizures, they were pseudo seizures, just like they did the first time. And so they sent me home, and it just kept getting worse. They didn't do anything. So I went to see my neurologist, and he didn't know what to do because all these seizures are so sudden. I'm having 30 seizures a day after a year and a half of not having any, and we had no idea what was going on. And he put me on meds because that's the best they could do, quickly thinking. And now I'm on Lamictal, I'm on Vimpat, and I have to take Ativan regularly, even though it's an emergency seizure med, because they don't know what to do. And it started getting better. They programmed my VNS, and things were starting to get okay. And then they stopped being okay. I started having seizures again. I was only having like 1 or 2 a day, but I wasn't having any for a bit, and then it just started again. And we get to, I think it was Friday night of last week, and it's the worst thing I've ever experienced. I was at a friend's house, and kudos to him for being so supportive of me lately, because like I definitely would not be as strong as I have been if it weren't for him. But epilepsy really isn't easy, and I've been using this channel to educate, but it is really difficult. And I was at his house the other night, and I started having seizures, and it was the ones where I was conscious. the simple focal ones, but I knew I was having them because I was randomly laughing and then I'd just start crying out of nowhere for no reason and just acting hysterical, and that's what was happening before. And the stress that I was putting on my friends and stuff is, I just randomly start crying and I'd break down and get hysterical for no reason, and then it would just get worse and worse, and I'd have partial complex seizures, and that would just make things even worse. But I was at his house and it started as simple partial seizures, and they started happening over and over, and I didn't want to tell him because I didn't want to scare him away. I've scared everyone away with my epilepsy. It's another struggle. I made a video on relationships and epilepsy. Everyone sort of runs because they don't understand it, and he was like the first person to be this supportive this quickly, given that I'm actually having seizures. I literally had a tonic-clonic in his arms because he caught me because I was standing up, and he just dealt with it. He didn't get freaked out or anything. He still let me come over, and I was at his house, and slowly these simple partial started turning into complex partial, and I was messaging my mom at this point because I didn't want to freak out my neighbors, and I told her, I was like, can you come get me? I can't even move right now. Like, I was just having seizure after seizure, and they were clustering, and I was still remaining conscious, but I couldn't do anything. It's kind of like being in a big empty room just watching the perspective of your body but not being able to do anything about it. And as my mom was heading over, I was sending her a text, and later on in the night I'd seen it, and I just was pressing the same button over and over and over again, and that was when I started having worse seizures. I'm not quite sure what kind I was having, but I was going unconscious at this point, and I was still having seizure after seizure. We had to use my VNS, and it was bringing me out of it in the beginning, and then it stopped working. And I didn't tell my mom for a while, but I was having seizure after seizure for about 5 hours straight, and I really did think I was going to die. Like, it was really scary, and it was almost as if, like I said, like, you're just in this dark, lonely room, and you don't know what's going on. Like, I wasn't conscious. Every few minutes I would come to it, but I'd just be in a lighter kind of seizure. I wasn't completely conscious. I was coming out of bigger seizures into smaller seizures where I could respond, but I was like a drunk person trying to talk. And my neighbor, my mom, my neighbor's girlfriend, they were all trying to get me to talk, and I just couldn't. And the only person who's ever been able to do that for me, like actually talk me out of that, is my best friend, but he wasn't there at the time. And I said it's like sitting in that dark room when you're having these partial seizures, and like he was the only one that could like come in there and turn on the light and get through to me and help me through these seizures. And I didn't realize it until after I started having these seizures, and I realized back when that I was having seizures before, and he was the only one that could talk me out of it. And I respect him so much for that, because he like didn't give up even though I was acting like a nut, and he didn't know they were seizures. And eventually I ended up putting too much on him. But getting back to the other night, it was taking about half an hour for me to come back to consciousness fully, so I was just having seizure after seizure after seizure, and it's the worst it's ever been. I mean, I was having the worst kind. My mom had to keep using my magnet for my VNS. It stopped working. They had to call an ambulance. I was having seizures in the ambulance, and the people in the ambulance were just trying to like get an IV, and they didn't care, and I told her to stop because I kept shaking, and I would come back to this simple partial seizure where I was like a drunk person hysterically crying, and she just kept asking, "Can I put an IV in now?" And it's like I said no, but she kept trying to anyways, and it was really starting to get on my nerves. And I'm just having seizure after seizure, and she directly said to my mother, like, "I'm not gonna keep using this magnet on her." And then it goes foggy for a while. I stopped coming to it. The hospital had to give me Ativan because I wasn't coming out of these seizures. Like I said, they were just getting worse and worse and longer, and I wasn't breathing. And like I really thought I was going to die. Like I could feel that. I can't even explain it, like the presence of it. Like I felt my brain slowly shutting down. I wasn't breathing. I was slowly getting worse and worse. I wasn't coming out of them. They were lasting longer. And at the hospital they didn't know what to do. They tried to give me a COVID test, and I was shaking, and they literally shoved it all the way up my nose, and it freaked me out so much that my mom had to tell them to stop because I was just crying and shaking in the bed, and I'm just still having seizures. And nobody knew what to do because when you have seizures, you can't stop them, you can't control them. And everyone was really scared, but like the one who was the most scared was definitely me because I couldn't come back to it. I couldn't come back to consciousness, and it's just, I've never been through anything like that before where it was just seizure after seizure after seizure, and we thought I was getting better, and we just found out I'm getting worse. And in the morning, it's hard for me to get up out of bed because I have them in my sleep, and my mom has a hard time waking me up now because my body is just giving up on itself because my brain just isn't processing things the way it should. Like my mom has to help me even sit up in bed, and I'm fine right now because I've taken my meds and it's farther on in the day, but I'm having so many when I'm sleeping that it affects me for longer. And like I still need my cane to get around. I can barely walk on my own right now. Even with the cane, it's easier when my mom just like puts me over her shoulder and helps me, but it's not getting better, and I'm having tons of seizures still. And I've recorded some videos when I was in the hospital. I don't know if I'm gonna add them at the end of this video, but it's just, and there's also a video of me actually having a seizure when all this was going down. I was just freaking out and crying. My heart rate's at 115 and rising. But it's been really difficult. People think that epilepsy isn't that bad, but there are so many different kinds of seizures and so many that people don't notice. And like I said, I was having seizures and I didn't know. I was having seizures and my best friend and my family didn't know. And it's a constant struggle because with that came screwing with my mental health, my best friend's mental health, my physical health. And it's not some simple disease. It's not just seizures. There's so much more. And it's really hard. And I'm making this to put that out there. Like people don't see this side of the epilepsy, but like I've been getting worse and worse every single day. And it got to the point where I asked my mom to call my best friend earlier because I thought I really do think like something is going to kill me eventually because I can feel my brain shutting down and losing its function. And this is what happened before, and I literally asked my mom to call my best friend earlier so I could say goodbye to him before I died. Like that's that's the kind of stuff that's going through my head when I'm having these episodes, and I forget things over and over, and I keep saying the same things, and people have to keep telling me the same things, and it's so frustrating. And everything about this is just such an issue, and the biggest part, at least on my part, is I don't like people helping me because so many people have left because I just burden them. And I've seen so many other epileptics say how they feel like a burden because there's nothing you can do to stop a seizure. There's nothing you can do to get rid of epilepsy. There is no cure. And it's so stressful. And I don't know how many points I covered in this and how many I forgot, but this is more of a rant because it's getting really hard for me. And in my other videos, I know I'm really energetic and I'm all happy and stuff, but this is the other side of it that people don't see. The stressful part of it, the depressing part of it, the struggle of it, actually. Because I made a video called The Struggles of Epilepsy, but like, this is the uncut, raw version coming from me. Like, Cameron Boyce, he passed away from SUDEP. That's a risk that any person who has epilepsy faces, and that's sudden unexplained death in epilepsy. Like, there's so many things that people constantly worry about because it's not just having seizures, it is that and then so much more. And it's getting really overwhelming for me and really overwhelming for my family, and I do wish that I don't have it. And a lot of people, pretty sure everyone who's epileptic wishes that they don't have it, and any person who is epileptic would, I think they'd agree that, like, I wouldn't even put this on my worst enemy, because when my seizures got really, really bad and they're getting to that point again, I didn't know who I was. I didn't know where I was. I didn't know how to talk. You completely lose yourself because your brain sends the wrong signals and that takes over. And getting to that point again is so scary. And I feel like I'm going through it alone because I don't want to put this on anyone else. And this is just raw and uncut. I might put the videos of me in the hospital in, and then I might put the video of me having the seizure at the end too, just because, if anyone wants to watch that. I'm warning you now, trigger warning, but it's not getting easier, and it's like this for a lot of people. I think 1/3 of people go their lives without controlling their seizures, and I'm pretty sure I'm gonna fall into that 1/3, even though, I went such a long time thinking mine were controlled. And it's really hard.